This is a first. I didn't have to ask anyone to quiet down. Everyone just quieted right down. It's great. Um, so thank you all very much for being here. I'm Mayor Dan Rizzo, and this is, I don't want to venture to guess how many of these we've had, so I don't know which one it is, but it's one of many outreach meetings that we've had trying to give the residents of our community a chance to learn about our host community agreement and this very, very important project here. I first want to thank the Revere City Council for allowing us this opportunity to use their council chambers here. And we do have members of our City Council that are here with us. I'd like to take a couple minutes and introduce them. We have our City Council President, Tony Zambuto, here. We have Ward 4 City Councilor Steve Reardon. And Ward 6 City Councilor Charlie Patch. Representing Mohegan Sun, we have Peter Schultz, Project Manager. Vice President of Development, Gary Ludowitz. Revere City Planner, Frank Stringy. Revere Director of Finance, George Anzoni. Revere Director of Economic Development, John Festa. Revere City Solicitor, Paul Capizzi. Legal Counsel representing the City of Revere from Merrick O'Connell, Brian Falk. COO of Suffolk Downs, Chip Tuttle. And Director of Government Affairs, Chuck Bunnell, from Mohegan Sun. So, did I have your title right, Chuck? Chief of Staff. Okay, I was close. Director of Government Affairs, Chief of Staff. So, all purpose is what he is. So again, thank you all for being here. We have been working now for some time with Suffolk Downs and Mohegan Sun to come up with an agreement that creates jobs, invests in our local economy, invests in our regional infrastructure, and really contributes to the overall well-being of the City of Revere, our region, and the Commonwealth. We firmly believe that this package, this host community agreement, is the best agreement of its kind in the entire state, and it will help to transform the City of Revere and our neighbors here on the North Shore. You know, it's been important to us from the very beginning to do all we can to make sure that we have an educated electorate when they come out to vote for this project. Because as mayor of this city, I want what's best for this community, and I want our residents to be informed with everything they possibly can. Thank you, Louis. I want our residents to be informed and continue to be informed as best I can to make sure that, that all of the elements of this host community agreement are covered and that questions that they may have are answered. That's been important to me, and it's been important to the people behind me from the very, very beginning of this process up to November 5th and since November 5th. It's always been our goal to make sure that we educate the public and educate our people. This is a major deal. It's a big deal for a city like Revere that, you know, obviously has a lot of the same concerns as our neighbors around us. You know, we're concerned about jobs. We're concerned about our economy. We're concerned about the future of Suffolk Downs. You know, Suffolk Downs has been a great neighbor now for 78 years, and they employ 800 people. The thought, if you want to talk about what keeps me up at night, it was bad enough in my mind when we lost Wonderland, knowing how many people in this city, my community, worked at Wonderland through generations. And the thought of losing 800 more jobs at Suffolk Downs is really, really concerning to me. Um, And this project will not only create thousands of jobs, but it will help save the 800 jobs there. I'd like to take some time to review some of the key elements of the host community agreement. First, we'll talk about the financial side of it. We are looking at a minimum of $25 million. That's guaranteed as a minimum that the City of Revere will get. To put that in perspective, we have a $154 million budget. That is a huge, huge number for a city like Revere. That will escalate during the first 4 years to a minimum payment of $30 million. Using estimates that have been used since the inception of this whole process of $1 billion of gaming revenues, and one of the reasons why you see so much conversation surrounding this particular site, the Eastern region, is because the Gaming Commission and experts know that this is probably going to be the most lucrative license that's given out, given its location. So if there's $3.1 billion of gaming revenues that are up for grabs here in the state of Massachusetts, you have to believe by simple math that they're going to do at least $1 billion. If they do $1 billion there at that location, the City of Revere receives $40 million. Now that's transformational. It would give me the ability to provide services to the residents of our community that we could never otherwise do. I mean, I've put people on a list for, if they want a tree removed or a new sidewalk, they'll sit on a list for 2 years because of the financial constraints that this city has. And to have the ability to be able to add anywhere between $30 and $40 million to our general revenues here is a big, big deal. The pre-opening payments, before they ever earn a dollar through gaming, they have agreed to pay the city $33 million. So again, I mean, very, very significant. 20% of the jobs are going to be earmarked for Revere residents. Another 30% of those jobs are going to be earmarked for residents who live within 15 miles of Revere. So we're not just taking this on alone. The City of Revere is not looking at this as a Revere project. We're looking at this, and always have looked at this, as a regional project. We don't just want to lift Revere, we want to lift our neighbors with us, because that makes for a more solid economy. To have us just isolated and our neighbors, struggling or just, not being able to benefit from a project like this really doesn't do us in the big picture that much good. So it's been important to me that we not only lift the City of Revere, but we lift our neighbors as well. Before they open, they're also required to make some significant infrastructure investments. A lot of people, and probably the #1 reason why people might be opposed to this project, and I've heard it, is because of traffic. And Revere is an older urban community. We're surrounded by other older urban communities, and we have traffic. No question about it. These roads were built back at a time when people either had no cars, or certainly when I was a kid growing up, you had 1 car per family, and you shared it. You passed it around. Who's not using the car, and I'll take it, and we'll go back and forth. Today, it's hard to find a family that, if you've got, 2 parents and 2 children of driving age, there's probably 4 cars in the family. So so naturally, we have traffic here. And that's not going to be that's not going to be a situation that we're going to be able to address very, very easily. So we have a little bit of a traffic issue, but Mohegan Sun certainly is not bringing a traffic problem with them. They're not going to create a traffic problem. It's 160 acres on that land over there, 51 of which sits in the City of Revere, and this project is going to draw the same amount of traffic as maybe a Square One mall would, okay? Now, to put it in perspective, that land can fit 4 Square One malls. So what always kind of concerns me, and I think anybody that's in opposition to this should really take this into consideration if you're considering not voting for it because of traffic. The chances are, if this doesn't go forward, something is going to be built there, and none of us in this room know what that is. But I can promise you this, and I think any reasonable person would agree with this, whatever is built there is probably going to generate traffic. So we're going to be right back in the same situation that we're talking about right now if your concern is traffic. The difference is whoever goes there is not going to be obligated to spend $40 or $50 million on infrastructure improvements. I say this to people, and I stole it from somebody. I heard somebody use it, but they're not bringing a traffic problem. What they're actually bringing is a traffic solution. When you put $50 million, $40 million, between $40 and $50 million into our roadways, that is significant. I can remember having a conversation with Mayor Menino prior to the November 5th vote, and we both had agreed that, it's human nature. So I understand the fact people get a little bit nervous. Geez, they're building a big development. I sit in traffic already. I don't want any more traffic. But we both agreed and both believe, based on not just, I'm not a traffic engineer. To my knowledge, Mayor Menino's not a traffic engineer. But we both agreed that traffic will actually improve as a result of this project. And I know it sounds very counterintuitive. You're inclined to say, oh, no, traffic's going to get worse. They're going to build this big building. But you got to factor in the road improvements with that. Okay, you just can't look at it one-dimensionally. You have to say, okay, they're building this, but what are they doing to offset? And they're doing an awful lot. $40 million does an awful lot to solve a traffic problem. They're also going to help us complete a long-awaited new Harry Delarusso Stadium project. That is huge. If you see the hundreds of Revere kids, actually kids, I shouldn't say Revere kids because everybody plays there if they're playing an away game here in Revere, probably the thousands of kids that play over at Harry Delarusso Stadium, that field has been in dire need of improvements, or in this case, completely brand new field for decades. And this gives us the money to be able to give those kids that opportunity to play on a decent field and not have to worry that the bathrooms are broken or the field house is too small to host the visiting teams, and they'll really be able to enjoy a lot of the same benefits that other communities have. It's also going to provide, as I say, the 4,000 permanent jobs and 2,500 construction jobs in the meantime. So, that's, I think it's important to note, I know locally, at least in terms of my local state delegation, Speaker Bob DeLeo, State Representative Kathy Reinstein, and Senator Anthony Petroselli, they were all very staunch, vocal proponents in the legislature when this bill was first passed back in November of 2011. And they actually didn't release this as a casino bill. They didn't release it as a gaming bill. They released it as an emergency jobs bill. They recognize, and I recognize, and I hope you all recognize, that we still have a jobs problem here in this country. Everybody in this room probably knows somebody who could use a job, could use maybe an additional part-time job because maybe their hours have been cut or their salary's been cut or their hours have been cut. This is going to give people that opportunity to provide for their families. And so I thank the legislature for doing what they did. And I would say that, listen, I've said this in every meeting we've had. I respect people that do not, I respect their opinions, the opinions of people who do not support this project. I don't expect, you're never going to have 100% of a vote on anything. Ask the city councilors that are here today. There's only 11 of them. They can't agree all the time on everything. So you're not going to get everybody always to agree on everything. And I respect the other side, okay? But the time, in my opinion, and this is and we'll get to questions later, but the time, in my opinion, if you were going to oppose casinos, should have been back in November of 2011 when the legislature was voting on this. And I'll tell you, because right now, from my point of view, as mayor of the city of Revere, I'm not in competition with a no casino. That's not what I'm fighting right now. The argument for me is not whether or not I'm fighting whether we're going to have casinos or not have casinos. The fight that I'm in right now is whether the casino is going to go to Revere or go to Everett, a mile down the road. That's the truth. That is the truth. I mean, I'm not making that up. So as I say, if people go to the polls, they vote against casinos because they don't want casinos, that's great. But this agreement that I'm talking about here for our community, for those of you that actually live here in the city of Revere, you're going to see these benefits that I'm talking about go to our neighbor over in Everett, and Revere will get nothing, okay? So that's the reality of it. There's people can disagree with that or try to put a spin on it in another way. Those are the facts. If you watch the Gaming Commission and you listen remotely with one ear to what's going on the news, each and every day, the Gaming Commission is considering these licenses. That's what they're doing. Nobody has stopped it. I know they're going to be before the Supreme Court. The Attorney General has already ruled that it would be unconstitutional. And they're going to fight that. And God bless, I don't have any control over the Supreme Court as much as I'd like to. But right now, as I say, I'm dealing with whether or not the city of Revere is going to get a license for a resort-style casino here in Revere and save those jobs at Suffolk Downs, or I'm going to see it go to Everett, and we're going to have to deal with a lot of the same impacts that maybe those of you that aren't for casinos are worried about and get $0 in return. So that's just how it is. So I do want to talk a little bit about some of the traffic, some of the transportation improvements. I talked a little bit about the dollar amounts that are going to be spent, and they're going to spend, as I say, anywhere between $40 and $50 million on traffic and other beautification projects. We're going to be fixing that problem up on Boardman Street. It's actually in East Boston. But it will have impacts on our commuters that commute in and out of Revere, so that they'll be able to get in and out of the city of Boston and certainly in and out of Mohegan Sun in a way that is going to be better than it is today. I've said this before. Any of you out there that would be willing to spend over $1 billion on a facility of any type and not have a plan to get your customers or your guests in and out of the property would be crazy. I mean, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't spend $1 billion if you didn't have a solution on how you were going to get them in and out of there. They have a solution, and that solution cost them about $40 or $50 million. Money that we wouldn't get if we got other private development to go in there. So anyway, Route 1A, the Boardman Street flyover, Route 1 and Route 16. If you come down Route 1 right now and you get off at Route 16 and you want to head toward the airport or come toward Revere Beach, you have to go all the way up to Webster Avenue, turn around, make a U-turn at a red light, and come back down Route 16. It's constantly gridlocked there. With their traffic plan, you'll get off on Route 1, and you'll be able to take a left right onto Route 16. You won't have to make that turnaround anymore. Conversely, those people that want to go up onto Route 1 don't have to go up and make a U-turn and come back. They will simply stop at a new set of lights that sits right outside of Plaza Garibaldi and take a left right up onto Route 1 North. So again, that is going to be a big, big help. You know, people have said, what about Circle? A lot of people will divert from going all the way through Revere, through Bell Circle, Brown Circle, and then on to Copeland Circle by the Showcase Cinemas to get up to Route 1, because they will go Route 16 and go Route 1 that way. So that is, in and of itself, a major solution for Bell Circle. They're also going to be spending close to $4 million in the Beachmont area at Donnelly Square. I know our neighbors in Beachmont, who obviously are very, very concerned and interested in this project. They're going to get close to $4 million of improvements in that area. And that's you know, that's money, obviously, that the city of Revere could never, ever invest in that neighborhood. And then, amongst others, I'm not going to go through all of them, but we're going to spend about $1 million on North Shore Road, Revere Beach Parkway, and Tomasello Drive, that right at the gas station outside the gates on Route 16 at Suffolk Downs, that's always a little bit jammed up because of the configuration of the lights. They're gonna provide a solution there so that people are able to get in and out of the property without causing backup. So those are just some of the transportation improvements that we have in store. Want to just go back for a second to the financial terms of the host community agreement. I always like to use, I mean, I've always been this kind of person that sees the glass half full. I don't like to look at it half empty. So I'm always using that $1 billion figure, because I truly believe, given all the other factors, you know, the 22 or 23 million visitors that we get in and out of Logan Airport every day, given the fact that this is going to sit right at the T-stop on right on the Blue Line at Beachmont Station, you know, 5 minutes from Logan Airport, 5 minutes from downtown Boston. Certainly, you know, between hop, skip, and a jump from the Trade Center and the Convention Center. I think it's going to be wildly successful. But in the event they weren't, okay, the city of Revere, no matter how much business they do, is going to receive $429 million over 15 years. Again, it's an enormous opportunity. It allows me to do a number of things. One of the things people have talked about, and I really couldn't say this during the last cycle, back before November 5th. I couldn't talk about tax relief, and I really couldn't talk about water rate relief, because I didn't really have the resources at that point to be able to promise it. With this agreement, I can absolutely, with 100% certainty, say that I can help stabilize taxes, if not reduce taxes here in the city of Revere, and address the water rates that are going up dramatically by bonding and paying down debt quicker to lower our water rates. And those are two very, very important things to people. So $429 million, $33 million up front, and again, as I say, the potential to go to $600 million over 15 years or more. Just moving along, and I want to talk about this because this is extremely important. And so, jobs, okay? 10% of construction jobs will go to Revere residents. That's yeah. That's 250 minimum Revere residents that will go to work to help build this project. Once it's completed, 20% of the permanent jobs, 20% of the 4,000 permanent jobs are going to go to Revere residents. That's incredible. And I misspoke. I said 50% of all jobs will go within a 15-mile radius once it's completed. It's actually 75% of the jobs. 3,000 jobs will go to residents living within 15 miles. So and we're very, very, I have to say, my team that you see here behind me, we're very, very proud of that. We're proud that we, are going to be able to lift up close to 1,000 Revere families and 3,000 families within our region. It's just really a tremendous opportunity. The other thing that was extremely important to us was that we took care of our local businesses. We believe that a strong local economy makes for a better city. So we have required within our host community agreement that Mohegan Sun spends a minimum of $10 million a year on local Revere businesses. We've also, again, keeping in the spirit of what we talk about when we say this is regional, we've required them to spend $50 million within a 15-mile radius. Okay, so, and so what does that do? What does that do? It creates further jobs, because as our local businesses grow, as our local economy grows, okay, and these businesses start to thrive, they're going to hire more people. So it really is going to have not just the impacts of, what's going to happen there at that location at the Suffolk Downs property, but it's what's going to happen outside of that. What type of collateral development is going to occur? We just met this week with the Hilton people who want to build at the old Shaw site. Right now we have an empty, rundown parking lot that we have to go, the city of Revere oftentimes has to go because people dump trash and whatever else. That big parcel employs no more people. When I was a kid, it was Seratani's, then it moved on to Shaw's, and now it's an empty parking lot. Well, the Hilton now is interested in that property. And that's exciting for us, because we've always said that if this project comes, it's not just what's going to happen there at Suffolk Downs, it's how this is going to transform our city, our entire beachfront, Wonderland, Wonderland Dog Track that, was sadly was put out of business several years ago, and I think everybody down there can see what's there now, which is an empty, blighted, empty parking lot again. These are things that we want to, we want to fix. We want to see this city become a vibrant, thriving tourist destination like it was years ago when we used to draw thousands and thousands of people to Revere Beach. And, conversely, and I think I'll just mention this for a second, our opposition that we're competing with right now, to let you know, I'll give you an idea of how much they cared about their business community. They've required their gaming partner to spend $50,000 a year in their local economy. So I think that it shows a clear indication of where our minds are at and how we have always looked at this so that we can lift up our city and our neighbors. So we have committed $2 million towards, as I say, the renovation of Harry Del Russo Stadium, $1 million toward the construction of a new youth center. Our youth center, we're not as fortunate as some surrounding communities. Kids will hang around on Broadway, and people say, I don't want to see kids around Broadway. Well, we have to step back and ask ourselves, what do we do to help kids have something to do? I mean, we need kids to have a place to go that's safe, that's fun for what they want, and, again, I mean, and the city councilors that are here right now will tell you, we went through a lot of back and forth just to build a new elementary school that is desperately needed. I'm educating kids over in trailers at the McKinley School right now. These kids deserve the same education as their friends have all around the city. So we had to go and spend another $35 million to build a new elementary school. That's not an easy decision for these city councilors. Here's another thing. We applied for a $10 million grant for science labs at the high school because our science labs are going to put us to a point where we're not going to be within accreditation, And those of you here sitting here now, if you have any children or grandchildren that may go to the Revere school system, that is an excellent school system that we continuously invest in. By the time they get to the high school, the science labs may ultimately cost us accreditation. Either that or we're going to have to pony up $10 million, but the School Building Assistance Bureau told us, you know what, you're worthy of the $10 million, you've got a great school system, but we're not going to throw good money after bad. You need to put a statement of interest in and start thinking about building a new high school. Now, I barely got an elementary school through the City Council. How am I ever going to get a high school built for these kids? This gives me the chance to do that. Gives me the chance to do that. And so, as I say, to be able to give kids a new youth center to go to, again, that will give parents a safe place to send their kids out so they're not having to hang around the street corners, to me is a great thing. Another couple of things that I have committed to is a $250,000 annual grant that promotes economic development and maybe works with local small businesses to maybe in a small, a small type of business loan or grant program so we continue to lift our city. I've also talked with Bob Rapucci from CAPIC about a job readiness program so that kids that graduate high school that maybe don't have any other skills or don't want to move on to college can go into a job readiness program that will prepare them to go out and make a good living, maybe even at the new Mohegan Sun that's there in one of their, in some capacity. So, I've committed $1.5 million to him to get a job readiness program out so that we help every possible person that we can here in the city that wants to work. We're going to try to help them make sure that they can get to work. So, just a couple of final notes, I don't even really, generally speaking, it's well, some people may find, it's an important, but it's almost legalese. So, reopeners, okay? There's certain situations that this host community agreement can be reopened, and I guess it's good for people to know because this is a binding agreement between the City of Revere and Mohegan Sun. So there's just very, very minimal ways that this host community agreement can be reopened. It is if the city believes that the transportation impacts of the project have not been sufficiently mitigated, we can reopen. If the state or municipal or any municipal agency requires changes to the transportation improvements, that's a reopener. If Mohegan Sun proposes any kind of a substantial modification on or off the current property or project site, or any type of reduction in the size of the project, that will require a reopener. And any other regulations that the Gaming Commission may require, for the agreement to be opened up, naturally that will come from the Gaming Commission, and that would allow for a reopener. Outside of that, this is an ironclad contract between us and Mohegan Sun. Now, Mohegan Sun, I've had, and admittedly, I haven't had the great opportunity to have spent an awful lot of time with them because they've just become our new gaming partners really over the last couple of months. But, we have obviously had many, many meetings. I've had the chance to meet a lot of their team. I've gone down to Mohegan Sun, met with their board of directors, took a tour of the facility, talked to employees down there to see how they were treated. I wanted to know what we are bringing to the City of Revere. And I can tell you unequivocally, this is a first-class, world-class organization, and they're going to prove it to you. I promise you that. And, I'm mayor of this city. I have a lot at stake with this project. If this project doesn't go well, more than anybody, it's going to reflect back on me. And I live here. I care deeply about this city. I would never welcome a project, I don't care if it was $20 billion, if I didn't think it was going to be something that was going to be good for this city. This is going to be transformational. So with that, and I know there's people that are here on both sides, okay? So I am willing to entertain questions, specific questions. I mean, if somebody wants to, talk about how much they love it or how much they hate it, that's okay. You can mention that too. But I'd really like this session to be for people to ask questions, that you have legitimate questions about the host community agreement. Okay? If we want to both take our teams out and rally, and the yes people over here and the no people over there, we can go rally. But really, the purpose of this meeting, and this is a televised meeting, is to ask questions so that people, maybe people that can't be here, can get their questions answered. But if it's just, I just don't want this to turn into, and I'm talking to both sides now, I don't want this to turn into, I'm for it, I'm against it, I'm for it, I'm against it. Nobody gets anything out of that. We know who's for it, we know who's against it. I assume the ones without buttons are for it. So the one, okay, so I'm just going to go on that assumption. So, but if you have specific questions, please, ask your question, okay? So, I don't know if somebody wants to help me, maybe pass this microphone around, and this way here, when you ask your question, you can ask into the microphone, and then my trusted assistant, Miles, if you can take that around.
I'd just like to know how they're going to address the traffic issue, the noise for the residents that are right along Route 1A on like Lucia Ave. The noise now is crazy. Yeah, the Route 1 that goes right across, the noise is really loud. I mean, it keeps me awake at night. So how will they address that is my issue.
Well, your ward councilor, Charlie Patch, is here, and we have been advocating for as long as I can remember to put up sound barriers there. And that goes whether or not, regardless what happens over at Suffolk Downs, we'd like to see that happen, because I know when I go up and down Route 128 or something, I see sound barriers that protect those neighborhoods up there in Linfield and wherever else. I feel as though that our residents here should be entitled to those same protections, or that same benefit to help eliminate, the increase in traffic. I will say this, and again, I'm just telling you what I know through traffic engineering studies, okay? And these are not just Revere studies, and we have done our own studies. These are Boston studies as well, because we reviewed each other's traffic plan, okay? And I should add, Suffolk Downs, their traffic engineers. So we really had 3 different traffic engineers that worked on identifying where the traffic was going to be coming from. Traffic's going to be coming from all different areas. It'll be coming from Route 16. It'll be coming out of the tunnels. It'll be coming down North Shore Road. It'll be coming Route 1. About 70% of the traffic is going to be coming from the south, or will ultimately make their way to the facility from, let's say, the Ted Williams Tunnel, or down, the Callahan Tunnel, or Sumner, whichever one comes from Boston and then goes back out. 30% will come from the North Shore. So when Squire Road does, I think, 35,000 cars a day, Frank? Is that what does Squire Road do? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm way off on that. Do you know what the traffic count is on Squire Road? 60,000. Okay, so I'm a little off. But when you think about 10,000 to 12,000 visits a day to the facility, to Mohegan Sun, that's another 3,000 cars that will visit from the north. How much will go down Route 1, I'm not 100% sure. How much will ever make it to the Lucia Ave area, I'm not really sure. Yeah. Well, listen, it'll be well, it's much more of a benefit to me anyway, I mean, listen, everyone's got their own personal preference. You could still take Route 60 at the Showcase Cinemas and come down, and it's just as easy to get over to Suffolk Downs now that way. Will you get, more cars maybe on a daily basis coming down Route 1? Yep. Yeah, right now they don't. Right now, there is not a plan to put up barriers, although, as I say, Charlie Patch and myself have been advocating for barriers for a long time. And that's something that we can continue to advocate for. And you know what? I mean, sometimes if you can document, if there were a case, and I don't know, given the traffic counts, that it'll be noticeable, really noticeable. Right. But see, we're dealing, if this project doesn't go forward, you're already dealing with that problem. So we've got problems right now that we're trying to solve. But as I said at the outset, when it comes to the traffic, they're spending $40 to $50 million. If they don't go forward with their project, zero is going to be spent. So I can't, in my wildest imagination, think how that is going to help our traffic. Given you get 60,000 cars a day that go on Squire Road. I mean, if every car from the North Shore, if every single car, and it won't, but let's say every car went down Squire Road from the North Shore as far as representing the North Shore traffic going to Mohegan Sun, that's like 5% uptick in traffic. I mean, it's borderline negligible. It's not going to make a difference whether you're going to sit at a red light an extra 25 minutes or something. I mean, you spread that out over 24 hours, it really isn't going to be to the magnitude I think that people want to lead you to believe. Your noise problem, I understand. And that's something that we have been trying to address. I don't know how long you've lived down there, but I've been on the city council before becoming mayor for 12 years, mayor now for 2. 14 years we've been advocating through our legislature to put up sound barriers. And Charlie Patch over there will tell you. I mean, we've been advocating for it. Well, through us, yeah. Well, and you. I mean, I forgot to introduce, we have with us tonight, she is representing Kathy Reinstein's office, one of our state representatives. We have Rosalie Vincent. And I should also add that Rosalie Vincent, after working in that office for 25 years, has announced her candidacy to run for Kathy's seat now that she's left. So want to welcome Rosalie here. But thank you for that question. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Thank you. I can't stand too long. Mr. Mayor, could you give any details of the proposed improvements to the Beachmont train station, please?
You know what? I'm going to turn that over to Chip, because I know he's been working a lot with state officials on that part of it. Maybe, I don't know, Frank, if you know anything about that as well. Okay, so Chip, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are in Suffolk Downs and Mohegan Sun are in conversations with the MBTA on how we approach that, but they're not very far along. And we had met with the T before on improvements to the Suffolk Downs station, and now we're sort of shifting that focus to the Beachmont station. So improvements to MBTA property itself, we really are waiting for the T to tell us what they think are the priorities and what they'd like to do there. We are improving the property around the Beachmont T station substantially, including substantial greening of the area around Winthrop and Washburn, a big green buffer that Pete Schultz and Gary Luderitz from Mohegan Sun can speak to. And I will say we're also looking at safety enhancements at the Beachmont T station with those light cycles and crosswalks, and we are creating an area on Winthrop Avenue for the MBTA buses to turn off onto our property so that they don't slow down all the traffic at Donnelly Square by stopping right in front of the T station. So things like that are in the works, but the final plan will be ultimately up to the MBTA.
Thank you, Chip. Do you want to add anything, Frank, or you?
No, all I can say is that I'm aware of the conversations going on with the MBTA, and there will be improvements, and they will be pedestrian safety improvements and enhancements as a result of this project there. And right now, the specifics are in the process of being ironed out, and when we have those, they'll obviously be available for the public to look at.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for that question.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. I want to start by saying I am 100% certain that you're committed to this community and making it better. However, the question that I do have for you and for your staff is, I haven't heard a lot of discussion about alternatives to the casino project. One of the things that I think should be considered and hasn't been talked about, there's a lot of space where this facility is being proposed to go to. And the Revere community doesn't have any colleges or universities here. Obviously, Salem has colleges, Quincy does as well, and public and private partnerships in Boston have been enormously successful for that city. And I'm just curious, why there hasn't been a lot of discussion about that kind of project, where ultimately the residents that go into that institution are going to come out with a degree and a job skill, hopefully, and something tangible for upward mobility. And education, we know in this country, is the keystone to upward mobility. Thank you. That's my question.
Well, first, thank you very much for the compliment, and I take that as a compliment because I do care deeply about the community. It's funny that you would ask the question about colleges and universities, because when Wonderland first went out, and there's 36 acres over there, I was and really continue to be a staunch proponent of doing something over there with respect to a college or a university or a satellite campus, something like that. I think that could have major benefit, as you say, to allow our own residents and their families to not only attend college here locally, but also kind of transform some of those surrounding neighborhoods over there. I see Ward 2 City Councilor Ira Novoselsky has arrived, and I want to thank him for being here. And I know that, he probably, like myself, loved to see some of that housing adjacent to that site turn into maybe student housing or something like that, and all the other amenities that come with, student housing. I think right now, with respect to the Suffolk Downs site, and, I'm mindful of a Globe editorial that was written by Roland Marullo. Roland grew up in Revere. In fact, his mother, Eileen, I don't think she's here, but Eileen's a World War II veteran, and in fact, she was just honored at the State House for her work with veterans. But Roland wrote a great editorial talking about communities and how certain communities have voted it down. It was voted down in Palmer, it was voted down in Milford. It's been voted down in several different, it never panned out in Foxborough. There's been several, East Boston, so it has been voted down, but his editorial essentially said that while an expanded gaming facility, a resort-style casino destination, might not work for every community, it might not be part of who they are, Revere has been host to 2 tracks where people have been gaming for close to 80 years. And I think that's why you continue to see, I'm not saying everybody, but that's why voters passed it back on November 5th here in the city. I think culturally, it's always been a fit here for us. And it's not that we necessarily like to gamble more than everybody else. It's just that, people in this city grew up with these facilities and realized that there are benefits to them. I mean, as much as not everybody, I'm not hanging the fate or the future of our city on a casino. I just happen to think this is a good project, and it offers benefits that I don't care what goes there. I mean, clearly, we're not going to get the same type of financial and tax revenue benefit we'll get if a university goes there. I mean, they're tax exempt. So, I mean, we could probably work some sort of a pilot arrangement maybe, but it wouldn't be anywhere near. I'm not sure that a university would create the type of jobs that this has, or local investment, although local investment, I think, would be good with kids. So that's why I say, I mean, I'd love to see maybe something happen at Wonderland like that, but I'm playing the hand that we're dealt right now. I mean, Suffolk Downs has 800 employees. It's the only thoroughbred racetrack left in all of New England. I mean, it has a great, history here in our city. And along comes Mohegan Sun, and they're the premier gaming brand here, certainly in New England, and now getting a reputation around the world as they've made their way out to New Jersey and Pennsylvania and continue to explore opportunities. So I think they'll be great partners and great neighbors, as Suffolk Downs has. So your point is not lost in terms of wanting to see something like that here in Revere, but this is the project that is in front of us now. And I find, as I put my pros and cons together, these are the pros and these are the cons, the pros in my mind and in my analysis outweighed any negativity that I could see myself. So I hope that at least helps answer your question a little bit. So.
Mr. Mayor, thanks. I just wanted to add, there actually is a provision in the host community agreement where Mohegan Sun has an obligation to work with the city to study the feasibility of bringing a satellite community college campus to the city, in addition to bringing...
And we have an agreement in place, too, with 3 community colleges in the local area.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm 17, and I'm with Revere Youth in Action. We're campaigning for a youth center in Revere. My question is, how will a casino impact the youth like me?
So, well, thank you for the question. Were you one of the presenters that was in my office? She wasn't. Okay. I see Dimple there. I know that I had a bunch of kids in my office maybe about a year ago that gave me a terrific presentation on why Revere needed a youth center. And so, so as far as the impact that I think it'll have on our youth, I think it will do a couple things. One is I'm very, very excited about these amenities that I've talked about already: the new youth center and the new stadium. We're also investing $1 million into Revere Public Schools each and every year. We are looking to appropriate additional money into after-school programs. And as I alluded to before, for kids that decide for whatever reason whether they initially don't want to move on to college or maybe don't want to go to college at all, I think it opens up a lot of real, meaningful job opportunities. Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, we asked them to do an analysis because a lot of people like to say, oh, these are just, awful jobs, they're minimum wage, it's hard to raise a family, they're not real meaningful jobs. And so we asked them to do a study because I wanted to be able to, I never want to talk non-fact. I want to talk factual. So we asked them to do a study, and they surprised themselves. They said that they thought it was around $45,000 a year, which isn't too bad, particularly if you're the person that doesn't have the job. But to their surprise, the average salary down there was $56,000. So that's a pretty darn good job for somebody coming out of school that doesn't have any real skill set. Now, again, that's an average. You'll have people in finance or in some other, management position that's making a little higher, a little lower. But there's real opportunity. When I went down to visit Mohegan Sun and talk to some of their employees and talk to some of their people, It's amazing how many people started off with them 17 years ago. 17 years ago, maybe not thinking they'd ever be there 5 years from then. But they're there 17 years later saying, I would never work anywhere else. And they were thrilled with the opportunity that Mohegan Sun has given them, the upward mobility that they were offered. And so, you know, these aren't just jobs. These are careers. And with so many of these careers at stake here, just for Revere residents alone, I think it's great for kids like yourself.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. I've been to several of these now, too. And I just want to say that I'm not a person, I appreciate your comment about listening to others' opinions. And I'm here to learn. But I normally don't wear a button. I normally don't put anything in my yard. I don't put a sign in my yard. I let everybody have their own opinion. But what turned me this time is there were businesses, which you say you support, on Broadway, on Shirley Ave, who, when asked, would you put a "Don't Gamble on Revere" sign in their window, they said yes, because we're against it. And this is, I am so ashamed to say this, but your city council members, 2 of them that I know about, walked into these businesses, pulled the signs out, and said, you can't have them, you have to have this one. That, Mr. Mayor, absolutely, I am now wearing a button. You know, it's the moral and ethical approach that if this is the way the city council here is going to act toward businesses or toward anyone who doesn't share your opinion, it's the wrong message. It's the wrong message for me. And that's...
Well, obviously, I can't say that I would condone somebody, you know, going in and using any type of influence to tell business owners or residents, for that matter, what they can and can't do. You know, I've heard some different versions of that, you know, and again, I don't like to buy into rumors and innuendo and gossip and all this stuff. If I don't know personally, for sure, I don't like to go out and start repeating it. But I will say, I guess I'll just say this. I've heard some different versions of what you just said, and so, but you know, as far as my position is, and as far as you know, what I stand for and what my administration stands for, we are always respectful of other people's opinions, and would never do anything to negatively influence somebody against their will. Okay, so I mean, I'll just tell you that.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Hello, panel. I've listened very well, and I've heard a lot about money today. So I have a question about money to all of you and to you. How is a casino prepared to, perhaps with money, replace the people lost in increased drunk driving fatalities and also increased drug death overdoses? Could you answer that, please?
I think I do have a response to that, but I think it's better to hear maybe from somebody directly from Mohegan Sun. I don't know who may want to address that here from Mohegan. Chuck, would you like to address that?
I'd be happy to. I can tell you what our program is. We have a zero tolerance policy for people operating motor vehicles when inebriated. As a matter of fact, we have a program in Connecticut where if it is detected that you have had too much to drink, actually we will stop your consumption of alcohol And we have an Amber Alert system that will then take your picture and send that to every place where alcohol is served on the property, and it's for 24 hours. So even if at dinner you've had too much wine with your dinner and you seem to be inebriated, your picture is then sent, not publicly, but to the stations, again, where alcohol is served. And for 24 hours, you're not allowed to have any more alcohol on the property. We have people at all the exits to look for signs of inebriation. And as a matter of fact, we have a letter of commendation from MAD, whom we have a partnership with, which I'd be happy to share. I think I actually did share it with the mayor most recently. So we have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to that. Thank you.
Chuck, I just want to, but, to go further with your question, because that handled drunk driving, but as far as any other type of abuse or, maybe gambling addiction and things like that, I mean, were you going in that direction, or it sounded like you were talking about addiction and, I'm an addictions counselor. Yep. Okay, right. So I think if you could, I know that Mohegan and Suffolk Downs actually have led the way in terms of partnering to combat those type of addictions. I don't know if you want to follow up with that, or...
Mr. Mayor, I can probably address that. First off, Mohegan Sun has been a part of we had a relationship with the Massachusetts Council on Compulsive Gambling for many, many years, more than a decade. And I think we take some pride in recognizing the fact that there are people that do run into problems and maybe a bit overzealous in their gambling habits. And that's why we've been a part of that for a lot of years. We're also a charter member here in Massachusetts of a partnership for problem gambling to create responsible gambling messages out there. So we believe in it. We as a team, as employees, we live in these communities as well. We care for our communities, and we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing with that. And I think that our industry, probably more so than many other industries, takes a great responsibility for people who would overspend in our industries, maybe more so than some other industries may, whether it be alcohol or cigarettes or overeating or credit cards. We have been involved in a very consistent and aggressive way to do everything that we can to support the concern of problem gamblers in our community, and we're going to continue to do so.
Actually, in Connecticut, too, we support a chair at the Yale School of Medicine, and that would be something that we would do here in Massachusetts also.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Alma Pelliser, first place, and I have a lot of questions. I don't know, I'm undecided on whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. There's so many questions on my mind. And because I care about my family, all the families in Revere, for the community, I care for the businesses. I wonder what's going to happen to them. I care about my city because that's where I live in. And I have so many questions, but maybe I'll ask the contracts that you are talking about. How long are those effective? And how long is that all money you are talking about? Is that guaranteed for the youth, for the city, for everybody? And also I have questions about, I live in Harry Street. What's the impact for my street? And I have others, but maybe you can answer those, please.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. Thank you for being here. I can tell that clearly you have such concern, and you just want what's best for your neighborhood, what's best for your family, and what's best for the city. And I want you to know right now, I have all of those same feelings and all of those same concerns, right? So you know, the contract itself, the initial gaming license that will be given to Mohegan Sun will be for 15 years. Now, that presumably is renewable. I don't think they're going to come here and spend 15 years and then close up shop and leave. So as long as they've got a gaming license, however long that may be, the terms of this agreement will stand. And so the minimum that we're going to get, if you recall, when I started to talk at the beginning, the minimum that the city will get is $429 million over the life of the agreement. And that's if their numbers are just so poor, they're still obligated. They're obligated to fulfill this. This is a legally binding contract. So, you know, the city of Revere, in a financial sense, stands to gain an awful, awful lot. Now, I also talked about some of the offshoot development when you talked about local businesses and what's that going to mean to them. Local businesses, that's why I say the city that we're in competition with has asked their gaming partner to spend $50,000 a year on their local businesses. We've asked our gaming partner, Mohegan Sun, to spend $10 million a year. That's a huge difference. On goods and services, we've got companies here that provide different goods and services. It could create opportunities for people who want to. I mean, I had somebody, I was up at Polo Royal up the street here, and somebody was in there who makes and sells their own hot sauce, right? And they're going to be at the vendor forum coming up here. They want to be able to sell their hot sauce to, I mean, that could be an item. It's one item of thousands and thousands of items that Mohegan Sun will buy for their guests. So it really creates opportunities and opens up doors for many different types of businesses. The other thing that they do is they have a player's card, a point program. And typically these points, if you go, anyone that's familiar with a casino, they all have their own rewards program. But you have to use that card in their facility. You can only use it in their facility. They've signed up already over 100 businesses to use the player's card in their businesses. So what they're doing, they're driving people out of the casino to visit our local establishments, whether it be restaurants or retail, other retail type of stores. These points are transferred to real dollars for these businesses. So just by, I guess anecdotally, we had a meeting the other night where about 75 or 80 people were in attendance. And Peter Schultz was there. And Peter said, who here has a Mohegan Sun card? And this is the truth. I mean, just about what you say, almost every person in the room said, I have a Mohegan Sun, because they've been the only real option. There's them and Foxwoods, right? That's the only two places that people have been able to go really locally within driving distance up to now. So people are already, you know, they've already got these cards in their hands. What a great thing for a local business owner to be able to say, oh, let me use your points on your card. They swipe the card and money goes right directly into their account from Mohegan Sun. So, you know, I mean, they're trying to be as innovative and creative as they possibly can to make sure that our business community does extremely well. Now, I just want to talk 1 second about the offshoot development, and I think I'm going to let my Economic Development Director, John Festa, just talk about, it's not just this project, but it's the other projects that we're looking at down the road. So, John, would you mind addressing some of that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Absolutely. We deal on a daily basis with developers all across the country that are looking to invest in the city of Revere. In and within that area, as the mayor stated before, on Revere Beach, the Shaw site as an example, One of the things we just had this past week was a representative for the Hilton chain come in and was looking at the Shaw's, very much interested. But it's not just that site. We really believe it will be, there'll be major investments from different developers in conjunction, not just with that casino. And developments that we're looking to do, more of a commercial basis. One of the things that the mayor stated right from the very beginning is for us to be more aggressive in trying to get commercial developments within the city. And a lot of the developers that my office deals with and Frank Strange deals with is that they do want to come in. There's a lot of interest. They're waiting and they're asking a lot of questions, and we constantly are meeting with them, giving them tours of the city, and it's been great. I think this development here will attract a lot of major development within the city. And development that is much needed, but also development that the administration would like to see, the city council would like to see, and I think the people in the city of Revere needs to see, because quite honestly, over the years, there's been a lot of housing developments, and now we're getting a lot of interest from a lot of commercial developments to be able to do the wonderful things of stabilizing taxes and things of that nature. So to answer the question is, I can't even go into how many developers we deal with and that are just waiting for this to happen. And believe me, if we are fortunate to get this gaming facility, you will see major investments all in the city of Revere.
Thank you, John. So, Chip, can you just follow up too? We're going to give you like 3 different answers here, right? Or 3.
You had a lot of questions. So, as a Harris Street resident, part of the road and infrastructure improvement plan is to spend $1.6 million on the intersection of Harris Street, Winthrop Avenue, Revere Beach Parkway, which everybody who drives that area knows it's a troublesome intersection now, okay? And there are some issues now. There's significant safety issues at that intersection because there are crosswalks, but there's no light to press to walk in the crosswalks. So that's one of the first things we're looking at, but we have allocated $1.6 million for Harris Street, okay? And then, Mr. Mayor, thank you. We do have 2 events coming up. On Monday, we have an employment forum for people who are interested in the jobs and career opportunities. There's an employment forum Monday in the evening at the track at Suffolk Downs, the topside room, the clubhouse, 6 o'clock. And then we have vendor forums for local businesses that Mohegan Sun is hosting Tuesday in the afternoon and in the evening at the Comfort Inn. So if any local businesses have questions about the points program and vendor opportunities, there's going to be an opportunity on Tuesday to meet with the Mohegan Sun team on that.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I've heard a lot from you about the money the casino is going to be bringing in, and I just have 2 questions in terms of the pros and the cons. They're going to be giving us a lot of money, but I wonder if you or Mohegan Sun could comment on what are the costs going to be to the city and how much is then going to be sort of left over on top of that to spend after we pay for the costs. And also just a question in terms of the amount of revenue. How many $1 billion or more revenue casinos are there in the United States?
So the first part of your question was, what are the costs? And so a lot of the money that the city will be receiving through this host community agreement is kind of discretionary. A lot of it is based on what our needs were. And obviously, we did a lot of different studies. We did financial impact studies, environmental studies, public safety studies. We wanted to really make sure. I mean, this isn't just like, we didn't all kind of assemble ourselves in a back room somewhere and say, hey, wouldn't this be great for Revere? I mean, I come out and support this if I didn't know that I could, that at the end of the day, that it was going to be doable, feasible, and worthwhile for the city. So naturally, we analyze, all the impacts, traffic we've talked about. And so the traffic, everything they do with traffic is above and beyond the host community agreement, right? So that's off the table as far, we did our traffic studies, and we did peer review, and we've looked at their traffic studies, and, you know, so, because that's one of the major things that people talk about, you know, the traffic, right? So traffic, that's separate and apart. So the impacts, police and fire, response times, things like that. Those are things that I wanted to look at. I want to make sure that, for example, with the fire department, that our response times actually get better. I don't want to see response times get any worse. So we've had a fire station, as an example, in the Point of Pines that's been closed for a long time. I want to open up that Pines Fire Station and get people relief down there, the other end of the boulevard, that they haven't had for a long time. And you know, so, but that's just one example. We figured out that we're going to put on somewhere between 20 and 25 police and 20 and 25 firefighters. That's going to go a long way, given the fact that we've been, you know, understaffed in both areas really for a long, long time. This is going to bring us up really to a full complement, and it's not just going to be to address the needs of that facility. Exactly. So I've allocated $2 million for police, $2 million for fire, and that'll be more than enough. I mean, I put $2 million police, with $2 million fire. It actually won't cost that much, but we can invest in equipment. You know, I'd like them to have all the tools that they need on both, in both departments to do their job most effectively. They have committed to do beautification projects. Again, they've committed, not the city, but they've committed to do beautification projects to help with the aesthetics throughout the city. And then there'll be obviously discretionary money that I'll have, like I say, to do all of these other programs and take on all of these other initiatives that I want to do, as the mayor of the city. One of the things I did, one of the things I'm actually most proud of, when I was a city councilor, and this is back several years ago when the gaming legislation was being talked about, to kind of prepare for the gaming, I submitted an ordinance which ultimately passed the city council and is on the books today, that 50% of all revenues from any form of expanded gaming goes into a capital improvement program, and that is so that the city of Revere does not become reliant upon these revenues, in terms of, let's say, maybe hiring more people than we absolutely have to or something like that. So I wanted to be sure that we were protected, that we were going to save as much money as we could to put into capital projects, reinvest in our community for needs and things that people in this city wanted. So that was very, very important to me. So when you think about it and you just do, some real simple math, assuming they do $1 billion and the city gets $40 million, $20 million every year is going to go into a capital improvement program so that me as the mayor or our city council just doesn't squander it away on our residents, that you actually have a voice in what you'd like to see here in our community without us just hiring people and spending money, in a way that maybe you don't see fit. So now, as far as how many billion-dollar casinos there are, I'm not sure. This is, every case is different. Like if you look out in Las Vegas, I don't know how many casinos there are. There's a lot, though. So there's a lot of competition. You go to other more maybe lesser population locations that might have one casino, a little bit different. Well, Mohegan Sun, actually, you know what? I'm glad you brought them up. I want them to answer this question. They're better suited to answer this. One of you guys answer that, Chuck, or one of you guys.
There's probably 2, 3, 4 casinos nationally that are approaching the $1 billion mark in 2013 dollars. Of course, with inflation, those will only increase over the next couple of years, and we believe, like the mayor does, that there's great opportunity to get to that $1 billion number and above, particularly by the time the project is actually built. Mohegan Sun in Connecticut ranks right at the highest. We believe that we are the highest grossing gaming revenue casino in the Western Hemisphere. So we know how to get to those numbers, and by virtue of the project we have in Connecticut, can get there.
Thank you. Miles?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. On the face of it, the host agreement sounds great. But according to the New England Casino Gaming Report, update 2013, Foxwood Casino lost 9% of their revenues, went down 9%. Mohegan Sun's went down 6.1% and experienced their 6th consecutive year of declining revenues. And apparently no bottom in sight. And as announced last week in all news media, Foxwood laid off 140 full-time employees. And according to a syndicated AP News release this morning, Mohegan Sun reported 36% fall in first quarter profits. They also show a 25% drop in total revenue since 2006. So given that information, why should the citizens of Revere believe these promises of jobs and future income? They don't add up.
Well, I take, I don't take your question lightly. But we have to remember, all business is cyclical. A lot of businesses hit times when they go up, they go down. I mean, 2008 was one of the worst years this country's ever seen. And so people, just because the economy may be showing signs of life right now, doesn't mean that we're completely out of the recession that we were in. And what's the first thing that people start to scale back on? They start to scale back a little bit on those extras that they maybe would ordinarily try to do. So, there's a lot of businesses out there right now. If you look at the, if you just happen to look at, at the close of day, on almost any given day, you look at the stock market and you see what businesses have the green arrow going up or who has the red arrow going down. There's businesses, they can't, they're not immune from the world or national or worldwide economy. But that being said, they're still, as of last year, the highest grossing gaming company in the West here. So they went out to New Jersey and took over Resorts. Resorts was losing money hand over fist, okay? They asked Mohegan Sun to go out and take over Resorts Casino. After 1 year of taking over Resorts Casino, remodeling, changing the way they do business and deal with their guests, at the end of that year, in the aggregate, Atlantic City was down 0.6% in terms of revenues. Resorts was up a little over 10%. So that says an awful lot about their philosophy and how they're able, or what their philosophy is on running a business. I mean, like, listen, nothing's guaranteed success. This contract is guaranteed, but nothing's going to guarantee they're going to hit that $1 billion number. I mean, these are estimates that they have, and like any, we set, most businesses out there set a budget, and that's why at the end of the year they'll say, oh, we had a phenomenal quarter or a phenomenal year, or we had a horrible quarter or a horrible year. Those are just their best estimates that they can use. I can only look at the information that I have in front of me, and I feel as though dealing with the highest grossing, and that includes our competition, by the way, over here to our west. In the Western Hemisphere, they are the highest grossing and most successful gaming company out there. So, I mean, that's all that I, that's all that I can really, yeah, Miles.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, if I could just add to that, one of the things, we didn't take a gamble with this host community agreement. If we said, okay, we're going to go percentage on how you did in your gambling income, we would then say, okay, we're partners with you, we're just going to get gambling. We didn't do that. The team in place here realized the fact that we had a budget, and we have to budget. And you brought up, how can you say about the extra money? We have guarantees in there. And as the mayor had mentioned, we have $429 million of guaranteed money coming into the city, no matter how well or how little that Mohegan Sun does. The upside of that is somewhere in the area of 600 and some odd million, and it can go beyond that. But the minimum is 429. So no matter how Mohegan Sun does, we're getting that amount of money. And the 25 million that they're going to get the first year is approximately increase in our revenues about $17 million, 17%. So with that, you know, it's a very strong and rich agreement that we have in place.
I think it's important, Mr. Mayor, on behalf of the tribe, we have a partnership. It's going to be wonderful, and we're going to employ people and help, as you have said, transform the city. I will tell your constituents that you were a very, very ardent supporter and protector of their interests, and therefore this city has the most beneficial on a financial basis and on a community basis host community agreement in the Commonwealth. And so they should be very proud of the work that you did on their behalf.
Can I add? I'd like to add one more point to. I'd like to add just one last point to that question, because it's true this quarter was a bad quarter for us, and as the mayor points out, that happens in business. Probably more indicative, though, is what's the long-term financial structure and health and stability of the company. And we recently went through a credit upgrade where our bonds are upgraded from a C to a B. And then also part of the process here in Massachusetts when we applied for the license, we had to go through an RFA1 process. And that's when your financial credentials are looked at, your operational credentials, et cetera. In the words of Chairman Crosby, our credentials were impeccable.
Hello, my name is Rhiannon, and I'm 17, a senior at Revere High School, and also part of Revere Youth in Action. My question is, what is your long-term sustainability plan for the building and operation of a brand new, much larger youth center to accommodate all of the youth in Revere?
Well, thank you very much for that question. And, you know, that's the second question about the youth center. So, you know, and I'm glad it is because it's very near and dear to me. It's something that I've been talking about, and but for the Mohegan Sun and Suffolk Downs people here behind me, they'll tell you I've been talking about a new youth center since taking over as mayor. I cringe every time I walk in our existing youth center. And you know, I have to say this, our new Parks and Recreation Director and his team down there, they cringe when they walk in there. In fact, I'll take it a step further. I took Richard Fields. Richard is a majority partner in Suffolk Downs, and I walked him through the youth center because I just wanted him to get an idea of what our youth has at their disposal in terms of amenities and what they have to use as a youth center. And he didn't make it through the front door, and he looked at me with this look of astonishment and said, yeah, you know, I can see why you have me down here, you know. And I said, this is unacceptable to me as mayor, to have to turn to the youth of our community and offer them this. I want to offer them much more, and I truly do. But you asked about sustainability. Without this project, in all honesty, as much as I want to build a youth center, I've got to be realistic. And I've got to keep a certain amount of police officers on. I've got to keep a certain amount of firefighters on. I've got to keep a certain amount of public works personnel on. I know we're in desperate need. I talked about maybe, not maybe, I'm going to have to someday be looking at building a new high school. We have a public works department right now that they have to cover their computer equipment when it rains out because the roof is in such bad shape that it can no longer sustain itself. And again, it would be a situation of me throwing good money after bad to spend all the money I need to for a new roof on that entire facility. So this is the reality that I'm dealing with right now. It would be a much longer and harder process for me to be able to say to you, I'm going to build you a new youth center, and the kids, the 7,000 kids that attend Revere Public Schools, and give them that opportunity to use a new state-of-the-art, what I'd like to see, and I said to my Parks and Rec director, I want this to be the best youth center in all of Massachusetts. That's what I'm looking to do. And so I know that will be one of the first things I do the minute that they put a shovel in the ground if they're lucky enough to get a gaming license. So I'm very much committed to it.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. I have a three-part question, okay? First of all, it sounds like Beachmont's going to get the brunt. What about Beachmont Fire Station, opening that again? Because I seem to think that most of the attention would be probably being put upon the casino and up Broadway and, like you say, Point of Pines. But what about the Beachmont Station? I'd like to see that come up again, okay? The second question is noise down at the track. We have listened to noise for years, okay? We know when the races are going off. We know when the wind is blowing and the aroma is coming in, okay? Are we going to be faced with honking cars, with lights up in the sky, and all that that's going to bring? We're going to have the noise factor again. We have the train noise factor. And it seems like Beachmont Station is it. That's where they're all going to get off or go on. We are going to be faced with people that have had alcohol. We're going to be faced with people that have had, they lost. And our people walk Winthrop Avenue. And the other question is, why do you deny surrounding communities the status with Everett, okay? And why are you using Everett as a scare tactic? Because ultimately, I believe the Gaming Commission is going to decide the whole thing. Those are my questions.
I'll start to work backwards. I respectfully disagree with me using Everett as a scare tactic. You know, I don't think there's anyone that has followed this that would disagree that we are in competition right now with Everett. So if somebody would argue that, I would ask why you would say that, or do you have any factual data to back that up? We are in competition with Everett, period. Yeah. Well, I don't think it's a scare tactic. It's just, it's the reality of it. The reality is if it doesn't come to Revere, chances are it will go to Everett. Now, there's also a chance the Gaming Commission might say, we don't want it to go to Everett either. We don't want it to go to Revere. We don't want it to go to Everett. And nobody gets it. That could happen. You know. You know, I mean, you know, and then I'd have, instead of the however many people here in the room, I'd have 800 employees of Suffolk Downs sitting in these chairs saying, what do we do now? So again, I think about them every morning that I get up and start thinking about this project, as well as all the other benefits that I talked about. You know, I'm sorry, sir, I'm answering this lady's question. So, you know, just hold on for 1 second, okay? To answer, you know, to finish my thought on the scare tactic, I don't believe that that really is any kind of a scare tactic. I think that's just, you know, we are in a very, very heated competition right now, and we're trying to put our best foot forward and talk about the benefits that this would have to our community while addressing any negative impacts that might come with it. As far as, I think your question had to do, why am I not designating us as a surrounding community with Everett? Was that your question? Okay. That was a conscious decision that I made. We have had a great neighbor for 78 years, since 1935, in Suffolk Downs. And I could not, in good conscience, go over and start negotiating with a company who's trying to put them out of business. I really just could not do that. I know some people may look at me and say, oh, well, you're forfeiting, maybe, several $1 million that you might be able to get for the city if this doesn't work out or it winds up going to Everett. But I've made a conscious decision to kind of cross that bridge when I come to it. I still have the right to go to the Gaming Commission under the legislation, where the 6.25% of all revenues that are generated on a statewide level, that will be up for grabs for impacted communities that I would have my chance to go after if I had to, which I would. But I just did not want to put the city of Revere and our residents, who have been well served for years and years and years, for decades, by Suffolk Downs, and sitting across from a table with people that are looking to take these jobs away. I just could not do that. And what was the last question? I'm sorry. Well, clearly this is going to be, okay, in the Beachmont Fire Station. Okay. The Beachmont Fire Station, that's something that we could absolutely discuss. I mean, I'd have to sit down and talk about that with the chief. Right now, just geographically, one of the more, and because of development going on along the beach and stuff, as I look at an aerial map of the city, we've got the new fire station that's right outside the doors of Suffolk Downs right now. That road, Winthrop Ave, will be widening, so the response time, I think, will actually be even better than what it is right now to Beachmont. But your point is well taken. We have a fire station up there. If I could staff it, I would. In terms of noise and stuff like that, I think almost anything you got there. I talked about maybe the possibility of a shopping mall or something like that. Whatever. It could be residential units, another 1,000 or 2,000 residential units that get put there. I don't know what the alternative to this site would be. I can't really speak to the noise of it. I can speak to the days of old when 25,000 cars would file in there on a Saturday, and they'd all come at the same time, post time, and they'd all leave at the same time after the last race. And I know because I've been in that traffic. And, that wasn't really any kind of a great thing for, people that wanted to get in and out of Beachmont at that time, if you recall those days. They're talking about 10,000 visits a day, not 25,000 on a weekend. 10,000 a day that are coming in at from different areas at different times. Will this be a nice, shiny, beautiful establishment? Of course it will be. But they're not going to be shining bright lights into the neighbors' homes in Beachmont. They're going to be very respectful and responsible neighbors. And I think it's going to be a real upgrade from the barbed wire and the barns that you see there right now that we've all had to look at for a long time. This is going to be a beautiful $1.3 billion investment in our community. I mean, this is, as I say, we have a real opportunity here in our city to really do something special, not only with respect to development, but as I said early on, for the services that we're going to be able to provide our residents. And these traffic upgrades, like I said, $4 million in Donnelly Square of improvements and pedestrian improvements and traffic improvements. It's going to be really, really, I know, and I totally understand, people get nervous and worried about it. I guess we're not going to be able to prove each other wrong unless it actually happens, because if it doesn't happen, we'll never know that it would have been a good thing. But having been in a position myself right now that has studied all of these studies that we have done to measure the impacts and to weigh the pros and cons, okay? Like I say, I'm 100% firm believer in what they're looking to do, what we're looking to do there. I think that this will be a situation like happens many times with different projects, not just this, but other projects that are approved by the City Council, that people are up here, they're banging their fists, they're totally against it, we don't want it. If it ultimately winds up getting approved, either by the City Council or through court, sometimes the lawyers go to court, they wind up getting it, it becomes invisible. People just say, oh, I guess it happened, And that's how I kind of feel about this project. I think it's going to generate a lot of real uneasy feelings, the fear of the unknown, and I totally get that. But based on everything that I've studied, I really believe that it'll be something you'll wake up a year, 2 years later and say, wow, this is beautiful. Wow, look at this area. Look how beautiful it looks now. I'm not looking at the barbed wire anymore. The roads are wider down here. The traffic actually zips in faster than I ever thought it would. This is really, and again, I'm fast forwarding. I'm looking through a crystal ball, and we don't all have the same crystal ball. So, but I respect your opinion and your questions, okay, ma'am? One more question. We're going to take one more question here because we actually, in the interest of business here in the city, I have a ribbon cutting to go to. So, Miles, you want to pick somebody? I don't know who.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. I'm a longtime resident of the city, was born here, actually born in the city. One question I have is that there's two schools, Beachmont, Garfield. Now, we talked about traffic, but in the mornings, the casino is 24 hours, correct? The hotel they want to build, the Hilton right there, is 24 hours, correct? Kids getting to and from school. I don't know, I haven't heard anybody talk about how the kids are going to get around. Some kids still walk to school, some kids take the bus, their parents drive them. How is this going to impact in the morning?
Very good question. It's one of the questions I haven't ever received yet, talking about how the kids are going to, be impacted, and how the kids are going to be going back and forth to school. Right, right. Right. Well, I'm glad, and I'm also glad because we have our Youth in Action members here from the high school, right? All you kids that are here, I want to thank you for being here. I mean, really, it's nice to see the kids. It's nice to see the kids have that kind of interest in their community. You kids should be very proud of yourselves. Okay, so let me take that question, okay, about the kids going back and forth to school. I mean, clearly, public safety has been and continues to be a #1 priority for me. I mean, it's the first issue I studied when it came to entertaining this proposal, was the public safety aspect. So I think between myself and Chief Caffarelli and Chief Gene Doherty, who either have or are visiting Mohegan Sun Monday. They're going down Monday to meet with their head of public safety down there to see the operation they have, and be more up to speed as to what their plans are when they build here and how they operate down there. But clearly, public safety is my #1 priority, and certainly the safety of kids. Couple of things. The roads, sidewalks, things like that are all going to be improved throughout that area because, that's one of the, that's where the project is. So these kids, in terms of if they're walking to school and they're using those adjacent roads and sidewalks, are going to see massive improvements on all levels. Think about when the kids go to school, right? The hours that they go to school, somewhere between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning, and they get out, between 2:15 and 3:15 for the most part. Those, you know, we have to remember, and I talked about Wonderland and Suffolk before. Suffolk Downs and Wonderland both had what's called post time, right? For those of us that used to go there. Everybody would want to get there for post time for the Daily Double. Or you'd want to leave when the track actually closed. There was a closing time, that was it. They're going to be 24 hours, so people work on different schedules. I mean, some people work 9 to 5, some people work, 4 to 12, some people work 12 to 8. People are going to trickle in and out of that facility at all different times of the day. I don't suspect, and I might let our Mohegan Sun friends here follow up on my answer, but I wouldn't suspect that peak hours for traffic in and out of that facility are anywhere near school hours when they'd be coming or going to school. But I'll let them, I'll let them follow up, and maybe they can give you a little more sense of comfort. In terms of, buses coming back and forth, and I know that, every single school in the city gets crazy at school hour. I don't think you can go anywhere. I know in my area, I'm over by the Whalen, the Susan B. Anthony, and the Lincoln School, and I'm dodging around at school hours if I have to be on the road during that time, going down side streets and trying to weave my way and kind of dodge the traffic, My kids are older now. I did that when they were small. I had to be in that. Now I try to dodge it a little bit. So, school traffic is school traffic, and but we do everything we can and continue to do everything we can to make it safe to walk to school. We have this new program now, Safe Routes to School. You might be familiar with that, where we go around, and I've done it almost at every single school here in the city. I've walked to school with the kids to get them used to walking to school, and also to not just to get them used to walking as opposed to getting a ride, but to show them how to walk to school safely. And so, those are programs that are going to stay no matter what, okay? So, but in terms of traffic and stuff like that, maybe one of the Mohegan Sun...
Sure. Actually, to the mayor's point, that is an off period at any casino in terms of in the morning or even at 2 o'clock or so in the afternoon. And to your point with Safe Routes, I think that's a division of Walk Boston, because I've actually talked to them in the last 2 weeks, and we're helping with publishing the map and supporting that. So that's something that we would engage in as your police chief and fire chief are going down to meet with our director of public safety. This is a very, in terms of our relations with our community and engagement, something that we do all the time. So we will continue to work with the Safe Routes folks. In terms of the center of gravity for entry into the project, it's actually on the west side. It's actually over off of Furlong Street is where the entry point would be. And that's not only cars, but truck traffic and stuff like that. All that stuff is going to be channeled through the west side. So when it comes to the school, it's over on, I know we're on the Beachmont side. It's actually on the other side of the building. That said, certainly we would work to do whatever we could do in terms of making it a safe route for kids and continue to be engaged with the community.
So with that, I just want to thank all of you for being here. You guys have been a great audience. I appreciate, like I say, questions, both sides of the issue, both opinions. These meetings, I'm hopeful, are just providing some information and answering questions to people. I know several of you that had questions today said, I'm not sure, I'm not, I have concerns, and that really is what we're trying to do here, is to address your concerns. So I want to thank all of you for being here, and we'll continue this discussion as we move on to the February 25th referendum. And keep in mind, for those of you who may be interested, these forums we have coming up that Chip talked about. You want to repeat it one more time, Chip, before we leave?
Thank you. Monday, February 3rd at 6 o'clock at the Topsider Room at Suffolk Downs is the Employment Forum, and lots of employees from Mohegan Sun are coming up to be there, so people who have interest in careers and career opportunities can speak directly to people who work at Mohegan Sun. And then Tuesday, and I don't know the exact time on Tuesday, I apologize, but we have an afternoon session and an evening session at the Pete, you want to?
Right, it's 12 to 2 on Tuesday, and there's a night session from 6 to 8, and that's at the Comfort Inn.
That's a vendor forum for any business owners or people you know that you may want to start a business, create a business opportunity for yourself. You can attend the vendor forum if you're at all interested. You've been a great audience. Thank you very much for being here.